It's September 1989, and a quiet farm in rural Mooresville, Missouri, not even 150 people in this tiny little town. It's about to become the scene of one of the most disturbing murder discoveries in the state of Missouri. Sheriff's deputies go to this property. Looks like a worn out 40-acre farm just outside of Chillicothe, Missouri, about an hour and a half from Kansas City. The house is cluttered and dusty and full of a weird, strange stillness that makes you think something really bad has happened here. And inside the barn, this dirty, old, dusty barn, they find a tattered quilt that at one point had been beautiful, but now covered what looked like a pile of rags. But when the deputy lifts that beautiful or once beautiful quilt, guess what he finds? A human skull. You heard it, listeners. A skull. Not just one, or two, or even three. We're talking about 5 total victims, all shot in the back of the head with the same rifle. Who are these victims, and how did they meet such a tragic end in the middle of Missouri? Well, settle in, listeners, because today's case is definitely not your typical true crime story. Welcome back to Missouri Mayhem, Mystery and Murder. I'm Megan.
And I'm Mindy. Thank you for being with us today. The sisters are coming to you from the closet with the dogs
Of course.
in KC on this wonderful Monday.
That's
And
right.
we just found something so interesting the other day. We have a listener in Dubai.
You heard that right.
Dubai.
Dubai.
And so, yeah, you heard that. If you're the listener, you listen to all of our podcasts. Shout out to you, man or woman.
Yes.
That is so kind of you, and we just are excited that someone from Dubai is listening
Listening.
to our podcast.
Yes. So
So
thank
thank
you.
you and shout out to you. Yes,
Oh,
you. Thank you.
glad you brought that up. Thank you, Dubai. So
Back
our
to the
back
case.
to our case here. Yes, we always want to take a chance to appreciate our listeners, and we were just
That
dumbfounded.
just sticks out. Sorry, it
Yes,
sticks out.
for sure. Okay, so before we jump head into our case today, let's reminisce a little bit about the year in which it takes place. It's 1989. And here are some things you may or may not remember. First of all, in 89, the Berlin Wall fell in November. Big deal. Also in 1989, the first GPS satellites started going up into orbit.
Thank goodness, because
So
I've used GPS for a lot of stuff. How I never had GPS before, I don't know, but that's all good.
yes, so 89. And then also in 89, the Nintendo Game Boy hit the market, which I did not realize. I did not think it had come out that early. Like, I
Yeah.
thought it was like later in the 90s, but and the big movie and box office like broke all these box office records. The movie in 1989 that everybody was running to see was Tim Burton's Batman with Michael
Yes.
Keaton in it. So, yeah. So again, a few things from 1989. But here in Missouri, we're talking about a murder case that was about to make even some seasoned Missouri investigators very uneasy.
Yes. I remember this case.
So, today we're going to dig into the twisted story of Ray and Faye Copeland, Missouri's oldest couple ever sentenced to death.
Oh my god.
So, I think we had our remember Bonnie and Carl from way
Yes.
back when, they were the first couple that got to do, remember, the death sentence
Yes.
together. So, Missouri, we have these cool things that aren't really cool. So, the oldest couple ever
Were
sentenced to
Bonnie
death.
and Clyde from Missouri? Where were they
Where
from?
were I don't know if they were from Missouri or not. We need to maybe look into them. So, Ray and Faye Copeland aren't just your ordinary pair of criminals. They are a pair of grandparents and parents from Livingston County, Missouri, who took advantage of drifters, hobos, also immigrants, some con men themselves, but they come up with a plot to basically make money, pin the illegal activity on someone else. And this crazy scam that they concoct to do with these drifters escalates into serial murder.
Into absolute mayhem.
Yes. And the wild thing is, the people around Chillicothe and Mooresville would have described the couple as quiet, polite, and hardworking.
Oh,
But you notice they didn't say nice or sweet.
quiet, polite, and hardworking.
I mean, polite's good, but again, I don't know. That's the things that were kind of said about them:
Yeah.
polite, quiet, hardworking, and really nobody suspected anything, of course, in this little town. So, listeners, I'm going to show Mindy a picture of Ray and Faye Copeland.
Okay,
She
I
is
have not
not.
seen them
No, and I
ever.
will put this
Is
picture.
this picture from them when they were young or old or what?
This would have been around the time they were doing this,
Okay.
in 1989, and we're going to, of course, learn a little bit more about them. But here are Ray and Faye Copeland. What is your first thought if you didn't know anything about them?
He looks kinda scary.
He does look kinda, he
I'm
looks
not
like he could
I
be
can
mean.
totally see those 2 being mean to people.
That, and, like, she looks like the kind of, like, mom or grandma, if you got in trouble, she'd, like, whip the shit out of you. Doesn't
She
she? Go
does!
get the fly swatter.
I mean, he just looks mean, and one of his eyes is in a different spot on his head than the other,
Yeah,
like, it's that ain't right.
yeah. So, I mean, obviously, knowing that we've got some crazy people on hand, um, it makes us think when we look at the
I mean,
picture
they also look like normal, everyday average people
that look like they could be grandparents that live in the middle of
that would
Missouri,
kick the shit out of you.
but they look like people who've lived hard lives,
They do.
don't
He
they?
especially.
And we're gonna find out that's true.
Okay.
Very true. So, okay, if you again want to see pictures of Ray and Faye, you go to our Patreon and you'll find that collection. But are we ready to get into this crazy, crazy story?
I'm ready.
All right. So let's start off with, who are the Copelands? Ray Copeland was born December 30th, 1914 in Oklahoma. So he's born at a really difficult time in our country's history. Around World War I, we have the Great Depression coming on. So his childhood was very, very tough. His family lived in severe poverty to the point that they pretty much forced him to quit school at 4th grade and work at home and work for them. And again, growing up during the Great Depression, they didn't have any money. And he realized very, very early in life that my parents do not value education at all. And that if I'm going to get anything in life, I'm going to either have to work for it or take it. That
Okay.
was kind of his motto in life. And he's like, just taking it's a lot easier than actually having to earn it. And this was something he'd learned pretty early in life. So, in his early 20s, Ray was already known and very infamous in the Midwest cattle market area, and not for good things. He was known in the cattle market business as basically a cheater, a liar. Been known to steal livestock. He'd been known to forge checks.
So just taking it.
Yes, and he would skip town. So this was not something like that was this big hidden thing. Like, people knew around the Midwest, like, he's a schemer. Watch out for him. Watch out for
I
Ray
thought that
Copeland.
you said earlier he was a hard worker.
Exactly. That's what people claim. I'm
He's
thinking
not
we've got some
hardworking at scheming.
well, there you go. It depends on, yeah, what he's working hard at. I mean, he spent time in jail during his early 20s, mid 20s. He spent time in Arkansas jails, Missouri, and Illinois
Mhm.
jails, pretty much for this scheme of the cattle, or he would forge checks, all this stuff. And we'll get more into that. But basically,
Good guy.
a big rap sheet. So, he is not the poster child for, like, I'm gonna try and change and be a better person over the years. He's kind of the poster child, like, this is who I am and I'm not changing for anybody
Ever.
ever. I've been arrested. I'm just gonna keep trying to figure out other things. So, what about Faye? Faye Della Wilson.
Beat the shit out of you.
So you better be careful. Now, so whereas we have Ray, who was born in this kind of rough home, Faye she was born in Arkansas in 1921. And so let's see, he was born in 1914. So he's 7 years older than her.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes, she was born in 1921, and she was one of 7 kids. And although her family, just like Ray's, was very, very, very poor, her parents did the best they could to provide a stable and loving home as they could. So that was, of course, very different from what Ray had. And as a young girl, people said she was quiet, religious, and obedient. I feel like that's how all the girls are described back in that day and time.
Quiet.
I'm like, why do we gotta be obedient all the time? You know?
She was
So,
obedient.
yeah,
That was a good thing
and
'cause
quiet.
so basically she just did what she was told.
Exactly. She was quiet, religious, and obedient. So she sat
So
there
you're quiet and you do what you're told.
and you go to church all the time. And yeah. So in the spring of 1940, Ray goes to a routine doctor's appointment at his doctor's office, and the office assistant is none other than Faye. And I'm not sure what attracted Faye to Ray, but after 6 months of dating, they married. She was only 19, and within 5 years, they had 3 kids. So yeah, it's I think she got herself kinda got in over her head kinda quickly, like, got married, had all these kids really
In a very
fast
short
in
amount
a
of time.
very short amount of time, and then they even go on to have 2 more
Oh, okay.
eventually, so they end up with 5 kids total. But she had worked, what I saw in the research for her throughout their marriage, she also worked as a hotel maid at local hotels. There was a factory she worked at one point, and she was also, this is scary, a nanny.
Ah!
Yeah. So, and obviously they didn't know at that time, but so just like, like
Um,
who we're hiring, obviously. But just like his parents had done to him, around 1953, Ray starts moving his family from town to town. So that's what his family did when he was younger. They would just go, kind of take advantage,
and then
rob, steal.
get a bad reputation and leave.
Exactly.
Move on to the next town.
Yes.
Start
And
it all over again.
that's what he did.
Okay.
Just like his family, he would go from town to town with his family, commit different crimes, get arrested.
Good.
I know. And 5
They were not
kids.
stable. Like, they did not
No,
have a stable environment.
no.
Okay.
So from 1953 to 1966, so over 10 years, Ray was arrested 5 times just for writing forged checks. So he would either steal checks from
So this
people.
man had 0 conscience.
Oh, yeah, 0. He'd either steal the checks and forge names, or I tried to look, they even, I think, back then had the checks where you had to fill in your name and address.
Yes.
Like, remember when you'd first open a checking account and they
And they
would.
give you the blank check.
Yes. So I think, he was doing things.
Starter checks, they were called.
That's exactly, I forgot that's what they were called,
Mhm.
starter checks. So he was arrested from 53 to 66 5 times just for that. So in 19.
Dude, after you get caught once, why are you like, maybe I can get away with it the second time. Okay, what about the 3rd, 4th, 6th?
And obviously, they're letting him get away with it enough that there's the consequence isn't
Are not that terrible.
no. So he's like, "Oh, crap." In 1966, well, people here in Illinois are kinda getting the gist of what we do around here, so we're gonna move again, and this is when they move to their final home in Missouri. And about a year later, after coming to Missouri, they buy this forker 40-acre Forker farm. They buy a 40
I did not mean to do that.
they buy a 40
A
acre
forker
a
farm.
Forker. What's
Forker.
it's where the second biggest fork that Springfield was made. Okay. Okay. Okay, so they in '66 they come to Missouri, and about a year later, they find this amazing 40-acre farm in Mooresville, Missouri.
Sorry.
It's not coming out of me. Hold on, hold on a second.
Okay, okay,
So,
seriousness.
okay, so this is serious. So 40-acre farm. That's a lot of acreage, and I couldn't find how much they paid for it, but I was
Lots of
super.
land to bury bodies on.
Well, because 'cause I'm like, "How did they have the money to buy a 40-acre farm?" Well, they'd probably stolen it in Illinois or wherever
He
they'd
wrote a
been
check for it,
for it.
man.
That's right. So neighbors and
You can write a check.
check?
Sorry.
I got a check. You want a check? I can write.
It's a starter check that's not mine.
I can remember going to stores and trying to use those.
They're
And
like,
no,
no.
sorry, not doing it.
That'll age you right there. Going to store. Use them a starter check.
Even legal anymore. Can you? I mean, we literally had to write all the information in. That was not
I
safe.
gotta get control of myself here, sorry, I got tears coming down my
Okay, you need
face.
a drink.
I got my protein drink right here.
Oh, you got your drink. Okay. So they have purchased this, yes, this death farm is what it's going to become. Neighbors and family members later describe Ray as being very controlling, harsh, quick tempered, and abusive to his family. Now, I found a couple places where Faye and the kids deny that.
Of course.
I know. They say, no, no,
You know, he
no.
was like, "You don't tell anybody about this."
Yes. But more often than not, people described him as abusive, and they described Faye as a nice, kind woman who really just was trying to keep her family
I
together.
feel bad for her kind of in a
Yes,
little bit of a way
is
so
how
far.
she well, because at this point, we don't know for sure they're both involved, but we'll get to that. But at this point, people are like, "Yeah, Ray, he's kind of an asshole. Faye, she's trying to keep
I don't know
stuff
why she's with
together."
that guy.
Right? Faye, God, her parents were like, "Faye, Faye, Faye, Faye."
Just
So
be quiet and obedient, Faye.
Faye Della. That's
Big
her name.
Della.
Faye Della. So by the 1970s, Ray, needing and wanting more money without working, remember, and knowing that he could not get arrested again for forgery because I think he realized finally after like the sixth, seventh time, they basically said, you get caught again, you're going to prison for a lengthy amount of time. So I think they had
It's about time.
scared him enough. But sadly, I think him being scared to get caught again made him resort to this plan I'm going to tell you about,
Okay.
which is sad because obviously it ends up with deceased people. So he's like, I can't be the person forging the checks anymore, the person going to these livestock auctions because people know me. So he created a scheme to scam people out of their cattle and basically then resell the cattle and make money. So here's what his plan was. So, first point,
Okay.
he would show up to cattle auctions and he would bring hitchhikers that he picked up along the way, or he would go into town and look for men looking for work. He always tried to pick drifters, immigrants, what were called hobos or homeless people back then to use. So
And
he
this is
would,
in the '70s,
yes,
so people did hitchhike back then.
yeah, and this goes in the 70s and 80s is where all this takes place, but this is he starts this in the 70s. So he brings along a drifter. He has one of the drifters or one of the men purchase cattle using a check from Ray's checkbook, but putting their name on it and not Ray's.
And why are these drifters doing this?
Because he's basically saying he will give them part
A
of the cut
ride?
of the money that he makes.
Oh, got it. He's
So,
got it.
yes, so they're like, he's like, "Basically, all I need you to do is come, I got into some trouble with the law, so I can't be so if you'll just come, I'll let you use my checkbook." But what they didn't put together was then them signing the checks, it could come back on
Mhm.
them. So, they would sign the check at Ray's request, and then Ray would resell the cattle before the check would bounce
Oh,
or
god.
before the forgery was shown. And then he could claim his innocence.
Because he didn't write the check.
Right, because he didn't sign the checks, and they would investigate, and then he would allege that these signatures were forged and fraudulent, and since the men he purchased the cattle from were or that he used for these schemes were hitchhikers and drifters, he would tell, like, they've already skipped town. They left town. I don't know where they went. Like, here's the person who helped me, but they're drifters and they've
Got it.
yeah. So he basically put it all on them. So while the scheme
I mean, this man spent his life around check forging.
totally. If he would have put, as we've said, I think before, half the effort into this
The
scheme,
actual job.
yes, he would have been very probably successful. Now, from what I read, people are like, this is such an unoriginal scheme. I guess back then a lot of people were doing this. It wasn't like something he had invented.
Okay.
But I mean, he was able though to get away with this scheme dozens of times until finally Gerald Perkins, who was one of his scam victims, was talked to by the police and he exposed the scheme. And then Ray was arrested and spent 2 years in jail for check forgery. So this is in the '70s. So he's doing this scam. One guy is like, "Okay, this is not right." And so then he basically ends up turning him in. And Ray has to do 2 years in jail in the '70s. Now, why do you I mean, it may or may not, I guess, be kind of obvious, but why do you think he's picking the people that he's picking to help with his scheme? Like the drifters and the immigrants and
I
the
don't know,
'cause I'm like, why is he not like, why is he picking those people specifically?
because maybe he knows they're not gonna be able to find him?
Yes. I think he thinks, like, these people don't have any family that are looking for them. They don't maybe if they're immigrants, they maybe don't even have, like, a Social Security number or anything to
Nothing.
identify them in the US,
So they can write these checks for him,
and then he's able to push it on to them, and
and
then
then, well, and then he completely gets away with it, and they're trying to find this person, they never do, and so it goes nowhere ever.
exactly. So he's like and he can just continuously blame people, but they said the fact that he was able to get away with it so many times before he actually got arrested was I mean, showed that Ray was smarter. Like, he is smart.
He's not
He's
stupid.
not stupid, sadly. And I mean, he's yeah, these men were the perfect targets. No families, no permanent addresses,
They were.
nobody checking on them.
Mhm.
And so they were really kind of what we'll talk about in a little bit, like they were a vulnerable population.
Very much
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I mean, if
Now,
you were hitchhiking, you're vulnerable
for
to a
sure.
lot of things.
Yes. And you would have thought, okay, he finally had to do some hardcore jail time, a couple years that he's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. No, he still doesn't.
What
Right.
was that
That
laugh?
was like, like my wicked laugh. But it didn't stop him.
Oh.
When he was released from prison, he's like, you know what? I better tweak my scam a little bit.
Gosh! I just got out of prison. What
I
is my
know.
next scam?
So, how can I use the
They
same
would have been good
scam?
modern day, scammers.
Oh, yeah.
The internet and stuff.
Yes. Oh, yeah, if they'd
Mhm.
had all that. Instead of having his scam victims write checks from his account, they would be told to get a post office box at the, post
Post
office,
office.
yeah, at the Walmart, no, okay, the post a post office box at the post office and open up an account in their name. And then he would have so they had to have an address
Okay.
to get a bank account opened in their name. So they'd get the post office to get an address, and then they'd open up an account in their name. And then he would have them write checks from their accounts at the cattle auction. And his explanation to the drifters and people was, you know, auctioneers don't like me. They hold a grudge against me. They think I'm bad. I've done some stuff in my past, but I'm reformed now. I just need help getting back on my feet. And these drifters, I'm sure he said, I'll give you some of the money or I'll
Help
give you
you
some
get on your feet.
if
Yep.
you can just help me. It's harmless. So they're like, okay. So, I mean, he's having these people now get post office box and actually get bank accounts open in their name. He's not even using his own checks now. He's like, "Oh, look, I'm not gonna
No
even
more
have my
starter
name on it.
checks.
No, no more starter checks." So, again, claiming that people just would not give him a fair shake, so he needed help. And once the scheme was over, I mean, Ray didn't wanna leave any loose ends.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what can a fella do but, like, murder him, right?
Oh my god.
Instead of maybe giving them a little bit of money
This
and
is a
sending
guy
them on
that's
their
done
way.
prison time.
Yeah, he's done
He
prison time.
obviously, that did not scare him at all.
No, he probably, like,
He probably
ruled the roost in prison.
I could see him being a big bully in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, instead of just giving these men some money or just sending them on their way,
Just
no,
killed them. Okay.
no. So, here's where we get into some red flags and
Mayhem.
our missing men and mayhem. So between 1986 and 89, several drifters who were known to have worked for Ray and Faye just disappear. And those victims were Dennis Murphy from Normal, Illinois, Wayne Warner from Bloomington, Illinois, Jimmy Dale Harvey from Springfield, Missouri, John Freeman from Boonville, Indiana, and Paul Cowart from Darnell, Arkansas. And most of these men were in their 20s. So, I mean, these were
Yeah.
young men. Probably just, again, looking for a start. looking just
Mhm.
for somebody to help them out. And according to people who saw these men when they went to work for the Copelands, they looked healthy, they were hopeful. Actually, they would say, like, the Copelands have offered to kind of help me out. Like, yeah, people thought, like, okay. And then they'd arrive, and then within a short amount of time, all of a sudden they were gone, and they'd have a new worker working for them. So people really didn't know what was going on, obviously. And back then, I think people were taught to just kind of keep their nose out of other people's business too,
Yeah.
you know?
Well,
Well,
yeah, like, I don't know where that employee went. Let's
yeah,
not get into their
I'm not
business.
going to get involved in that. It's not my business. So, Mindy, how do you think Ray is finally busted for the scheme and scam?
Um, Probably by another drifter.
Correct. A drifter named Jack
I
McCormick.
really did not know that answer,
Good
by
job.
the way. I feel so happy when I answer her questions correctly. She always puts me on the spot. It's like, "Mindy, how do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck. Oh,
Don't
fuck.
put me on.
I'm just gonna say this and hope she's it."
So don't ask any more.
I you cannot ask me any questions.
You were correct. Ding, ding, ding. That was not staged.
Oh,
She knew
good,
the answer to that. That
good.
is correct. A drifter named Jack McCormick contacted Crime Stoppers. And I don't know, I most people probably know this, but I, of course, had always heard of Missouri Crime Stoppers, but Crime Stoppers is like a national
Oh,
program.
okay.
Every state has a Crime Stoppers. So
Okay.
just so you know that if you are interested. But, anyways, Jack contacted the Crime Stoppers in Nebraska in August of 1989. And they said over the phone his voice was so shaky, they could tell he was freaking terrified. He told the operator, he said, I work for the Copelands. I saw human bones on their farm. Ray threatened to kill me. You need to go check that property. Yeah.
Ooh,
And at first, police weren't sure what to make of this report
I bet.
because they would get kind of sometimes they would get drifters and people would make wild claims or reports
Mhm.
or um but when they look up the Copelands, Ray, his fraud record, they were like, we can't ignore this. Something this could
Finally, his past is catching up to him.
and let's just give Jack a round of applause. He risked everything, everything. Because Jack knew if he found out that he'd talk, of course, he'd be on Ray's hit
Yeah.
list. Jack claimed that Ray sensed that he was figuring out the scheme and tried to kill him while he was at the farm. And
So that's when he escaped.
yes,
So
and
that's why
called
his
the
voice was
police.
so shaky
Yes,
and he was
yes.
terrified.
He
Oh
had,
my
yes, I
god.
know. So, I mean, good job, Jack.
Good.
See something, say something,
Do
yes,
something.
do
Report.
something. So once investigators finally obtained search warrants for the Copeland property, I mean, the discoveries just kept unrolling. So there were bodies literally beneath hay bales that were stacked to the ceiling. Like, I mean, they had hid these well. A victim was wrapped in black plastic, hidden under the barn floor.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine being the police working that? You'd be like, oh, I think we have
Oh
something else
my
here.
gosh. Just every door you opened, it said human remains were in an old well on a second property that Ray used sometimes. They found personal effects buried in a shallow pit on part of the property. They said it was just like peeling back like layers
Oh
of
my
an onion or
gosh.
a
A
nightmare.
nightmare.
Yeah,
Oh.
and the 22 caliber Marlin bolt action rifle that they were pretty sure was the weapon, murder weapon, was found inside the Copeland home, and they later did through ballistics, matched it to the bullets recovered from the victim's skull. So they were able to recover the murder weapon too. And I mean, they were like, okay, I mean, we got it here. Weapon, we're pretty sure this was the same shooter. I mean, they're assuming this is Ray, same method. And yeah, that's of course
Wonder what Ray and Faye were doing while they were searching their property, huh?
yeah.
What's going through their
Oh,
minds?
they're
Like, they didn't
freaking
even bother
out.
to hide this shit
No,
very well.
no, no. I mean, most of it, like,
Sweating. I bet you
yes,
he was sweating a little bit harder than when he got busted for those checks.
yes, I agree. And he better be sweating a little bit because, yeah, we'll see here in a minute. Now, what do you think
What
about
about
Faye?
Faye?
What
What
do you,
about her?
so do you, here, I got a question.
Oh,
No,
no.
no. Oh, no. A question. what do you think about Faye? What do you think her involvement was in on
I
this?
think Faye is like, "Whatever you gotta do,"
Yes.
type of
Just
situation and just a pushover with no spine at all. A spineless, gutless, quiet, just Ray'll
obedient.
fucking kill me. Yeah,
Obedient.
obedient. Ray'll
Yeah.
kill me if I don't go along with him because 'cause I've watched him kill him, you know?
Well,
So,
she
what?
probably, I mean, yeah, because we're going, I mean, it's one of two things. Faye's either is equally invested and just as evil as Ray,
Mhm.
or, I mean, at minimum, she knows about it and is either too scared or just an asshole to report it.
Right.
Well, she wasn't just in the background, so we can hate on Faye. Sorry, but
Okay,
we can.
we can.
Because evidence showed she was doing a lot of things. She was keeping track of names and dates of the
Oh, she was the
travelers.
secretary.
Yeah, she was admin assistant. I mean, not passive. She was involved. Investigators found two key pieces of evidence that tie Faye to the scheme. One was a handwritten ledger, like a notebook, where her handwriting, she had listed all the names of the transient farmhands. So she had their names down. And even scarier was that next to some of the names, there was a large handwritten
Meaning
X.
they were dead?
Well, we're going to find out here in a second. So they had the ledger in Faye's handwriting. The
Sorry, I
other,
ask you questions too, don't I?
see, it's okay. We're asking questions that the listeners might be wondering. So the other thing was they found that old quilt, handmade. It looked like it'd
Mhm.
been made from like old shirts and clothing scraps. Well, guess who the clothing scraps that
No!
yes, yes, she made a quilt
Out of their
out
clothes? The dead
of
people's clothes?
correct.
What the
Yes,
frig?
correct. So detectives said this
That is
quilt, they said
crazy.
this is the most haunting keepsake that they had ever encountered from a murder plot. They're like,
So she took the clothes
clothes.
off the dead people, then cut little patches,
Yes.
and is like, "Oh, this will be
And
perfect for my
as you're
quilt."
sewing, you know that these are clothes off the back of men that have been killed. Now, I guess she could say, I didn't know that, but come on.
What do you mean she d
Like, she could be like, who knows? I mean, I guess hypothetically, Ray could have come home and been like, "Hey, someone donated these rags. I thought you could make a quilt out of them."
Oh,
But I don't think that's what happened.
no.
Imagine, yeah, sewing together the clothing of men who have disappeared. Pretty. I mean, you're either deeply involved or
Beautiful quilt.
y yes, yes. Okay, so the search at the main Copeland farm was huge, like we just said, and
I just really
deputies
wish I could see their faces while this was going down. I hope I didn't find my quilt.
if you find my quilt, don't pick it up, please. Just leave it
Don't
there.
touch it.
Don't touch my quilt. At one point, they took apart over 2,000 hay bales stacked from floor to rafters to get to one of the bodies that was hidden.
Would they do have a cadaver dog that sensed it or
Oh, yeah.
something?
Well, and I think they knew
There's
but
another one in there?
I think
Oh my
I
god.
think they just knew, like, we have to look every possible place on this farm because bodies just kept showing up. And each victim had been shot in the back of the head, execution
Yeah.
style, close range. Not a struggle, not a fight. And again, to
So
me,
they're just working, and
mhm,
Ray just walks up behind him and is like,
boom.
"Bam."
Yeah, just
What a coward
yes,
fuck ugh.
such a coward. So as investigators find Faye's handwritten list of workers, the X's next to some of the names were chillingly accurate because those X's, 5 X's, they end up able to relate those to 5.
I'm
The
so
5.
smart.
Yes, you are so smart. And it became the most, again, unforgettable piece of evidence, this quilt. It told investigators, I mean, really something that they couldn't just ignore, that Faye wasn't
Forget about
completely
burning their clothes or whatever, I'm gonna make
make
it
a
into a
quilt!
quilt. That is
Yes.
so ate up.
And obviously before they knew anything about DNA.
Oh my god.
Here's my DNA quilt. Uh,
Oh my god.
and the quilt, again, they said the quilt was very well made and just, it's like she's involved in this. So, another
It's not
question.
like Ray made the quilt.
No, Faye made the quilt.
You got a question?
I do. What do
Okay.
you think Faye's attorneys use as a defense then in her? If she's, no, she's
They
like, a,
said Ray made the quilt.
they said basically she is saying Ray did it and I'm a battered woman. So she used battered woman syndrome,
I do believe
which
that.
may be true. They claimed Ray abused her, controlled her, forced her to participate. Um, Prosecutors said, okay, well, if he did most of this, we'll offer you a plea deal. And if you'll tell us where all the bodies are and tell us everything you know, we will give you a much shorter jail sentence, like months. They were willing to do a deal with her because at this point, they worried there were more bodies they didn't know about.
Okay.
And what did Faye do?
Um,
You think she
I bet she gave into the plea
You
deal.
think she gave into the plea deal?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would've. You think any sane person would've,
Yeah.
especially if you're claiming your innocence. No, no, no. She covered for Ray. She said, "I don't know
Right.
anything about anything. I don't know what you're talking about." So, I mean,
What
she just
about that quilt, bitch?
yeah, she's just playing dumb and obviously lying, and, although most people said, "Yes, Ray is a huge asshole, he probably did abuse them," they still felt like they did a lot more than
Well,
someone
I think
should have.
he abused her and she helped
Agreed. I think
because she was so scared and spineless.
and yeah, I mean, he sounds like she was kinda under his control. And jurors just kept coming back to the same question. If she's terrified of him or if she really didn't have anything to do with it, why did you keep the notebook? It's in your handwriting, the X's, tracking the victims, and that MF and quilt.
MM quilt.
Why did you make the quilt? Okay. Now, so they're in jail. They know Ray has brutally killed at least 5 drifters. So Faye's trial happens first on November 1st, 1990. And the jury literally was only out for like 2.5 hours, really fast. They said, especially for a murder case. Penny, you're snoring. And can you hear her?
Yes.
And they found her guilty on all 5 counts. And she was sentenced to death by lethal injection for 4 of them and a life sentence without parole for the 5th.
Okay.
Again, grandmother, she's a mother of 5. She's 69 years old, becomes Missouri's oldest woman ever sentenced to death.
And how old was she when she was 69?
69. And the community around Chillicothe and around Mooresville, I mean, people were really shattered because, I mean, of course, they had no idea. They're like, she was a church going mom, farmer's wife, like a murderer. Like, they're like, we can't wrap our heads around that. And when told about Faye's death sentence, because her trial was first, listen, this is what Ray allegedly says, which to me speaks volumes. He said, well, those things happen to some, you know? A life sentence?
Death sentence.
Well, those things happen to some, you know? What?
Your
I
wife.
just got sentenced to death for something. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
let's see what happens to you,
Yes. So
dude.
no remorse, no sadness, nothing on Ray's part. Now, Ray's trial began about a year, well, actually, it was more like 6 months later in March of 91. At 76 years old, he comes into this trial with a cane and big old thick glasses, and court reporters said he looked more like an old man going to a doctor's appointment rather than a serial killer or
Yeah.
what some also call a sequence killer. If you've ever watched Mind Hunters, if you haven't, you need to watch that
Okay.
on Netflix. But they're like much less a serial killer. But of course, the evidence was overwhelming. The jury found him guilty very quickly of all 5 murders, and he's also sentenced to death. Now, Ray tries to appeal pretty quickly his death sentences, but they're upheld in 1991. And sadly, I say this because he really didn't have to pay much of a consequence. He only lived 2 more years.
And so he's only in prison for 2 years
Yes, and died.
and died naturally.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this
I know.
guy.
So he only literally got like 2 years of jail time and died of natural causes at the Potosi, Missouri Correctional Center.
Okay.
So now Faye's legal journey took longer. So she was sentenced to jail in 91. And in 99, part of her sentence was overturned because through an appeal, she had them to where they were questioning her mental ability enough and her level of involvement.
I'm sorry, but
I
that
know.
quilt,
I
you
know.
were involved.
Now, they know she's involved enough that they didn't, like, let her off, but they reduced her sentence from death sentence to just 5 consecutive life sentences. So she's never wasn't ever gonna get out of
Yeah.
jail, but, she ended up only serving she served from '91 to 2001, so she was in jail for about 11 years before she suffered a stroke and was granted medical parole, and she ended up dying in a Chillicothe nursing home on December 23rd, 2003, at the age of 82.
So she basically got released into the real world
Oh, yeah,
in
because of
Chillicothe
mhm,
because
because she had a stroke. I think, she basically was released because they're like, "She can't harm anyone," but, what's the creepy thing is that nursing home that she died in
Mhm.
was literally just a few miles from their old farm and where all the killings had happened. So, I mean, she's just a few miles from where all that happened.
Oh my
Yeah, isn't
gosh,
that
that
crazy?
is creepy.
The Missouri Supreme Court summarized this case with what some call brutal clarity. They said this is a complex, fraudulent check and cattle buying scheme, culminating in the murder of at least 5 homeless transients. And investigators are sure it's more than 5. They think that there are names that were either never written down or people never reported missing, and they think there could be up to 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sad. 'Cause that means even though they're transient homeless, obviously they're still people. They
Well,
do have
yeah,
families. They have and so there's probably, there's families out there that still have no clue what has happened to their
loved
family
one.
member. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I always think back on cases, like, okay, what can we learn
yeah,
from this? To me, there's a couple different things we can learn from this case. One, and this is true, it maybe sounds strange, but the crime of fraud more often than not leads to more violence.
really.
Fraud, money, people think it's an innocent
Mhm.
crime, but fraud can really easy escalate into violence. And I don't know, listeners, I don't know, Mindy, do you happen to be watching the Murdaugh
Yeah, I
documentary
am,
about that
mhm.
the lawyers and the family from South Carolina? And
That is a good example of that.
yes, where fraud and money, and so we saw that here. Also, as we said earlier, vulnerable populations still today are homeless, and transient populations are very vulnerable.
Yep,
They're out there without shelter. They're out there, open to the elements and to anybody wanting to do any harm,
mhm.
and easy targets.
Yeah, and they'll get in your car because they have nowhere else to go.
Yes, yes,
Yep.
easy, and so that's scary. Evil doesn't always look menacing. Again,
Yeah.
we're talking about grandparents here.
Yeah,
Grandparents that you're like, "Oh, what's that what's that
yeah,
old
what is it?
grandpa
Yeah,
gonna" and, evidence, of course, matters. They had all kinds of evidence here, and that, of course, we have to go back and remember Jack McCormick, that his courage exposed the truth.
yes,
If he had never reported that or he had been killed,
yes.
this may have never come to light. So, any final thoughts on this wild case
I'm
of the
really
serial killer
glad that
grandparents?
they got caught because
Me too.
I feel like they could have gotten away with this forever.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, they could have ended up killing
A
a lot of
lot of
yes.
men in this, so this guy just went his whole life, just
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think most of their kids weren't at home still
yeah,
when these crimes happened, I don't think, because I always wondered if any of the kids were at home, did they ever suspect
right,
anything?
anything at all.
Yeah, yeah. But definitely, you guys trust your gut if something feels wrong, even if it's the sweetest grandma and grandpa in a car saying, "Hop
Yeah,
in."
don't do it.
Don't do it. These men walked into what they thought was an opportunity to maybe make some money or to do something that could better themselves,
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
cost them everything. Do you want to just do a little prayer,
I would
just
love
maybe
to
for
do
the
a little
families? And
prayer.
okay, perfect.
Okay, dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just want to bring to you today the families of these Copeland victims, Lord, that they will find some sense of, I don't know,
Peace.
peace, on this. And if they don't know, let them know what happened to the loved ones if they were a victim of this. It's just so awful. Um, Let us be aware, Lord. Keep us safe. Keep us from the predators that look like grandma and grandpa.
Oh my gosh.
Just keep us safe, Lord. And also, we just want to say a prayer for any of our listeners today who are going through anything at all, that you will be with them and fill them with love. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I love how you do that. Oh, little outreach. So quick few things here before we wrap up. The Copelands farmhouse was eventually torn down. Locals still say, though, that when they drive by, they just still get an eerie feeling when they look at that property.
We did not go and look at that
Mm-mm,
property.
no, it's in Mooresville, again, over which isn't that far from us. I mean,
No.
it's Chillicothe
Yeah.
isn't, I mean, super far from Kansas City,
Yeah.
but they said it's still creepy there. And they said, it just reminds them that number one, you never really know somebody, you
Yeah.
never really know people, and you never really know kind of what's happening behind closed doors.
No, but
So,
don't live your life in fear.
right, right. But yeah, crazy story of the Copelands.
Yes. Thanks for joining us for this chilling episode of Missouri Mayhem, Mystery and Murder. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to rate, review, and share with your true crime loving friends.
And remember, one last warning, if an elderly couple offers you farm work in the middle of Missouri, do a background check
Please do.
or at least a few references. From the closet in Kansas City, listeners, please stay kind, stay curious, and always stay safe. Missouri, you bring the mystery.
And we'll bring the mayhem.
Peace
Peace
out.
out.